Our movie begins in the morning at Central Park in New York City. Suddenly, everyone in the park stops moving. We see one woman who is the only one able to move, and when she asks her friend what is happening, her friend says something strange and then commits suicide in front of her. Next, we go to a construction site near Central Park where we see the workers and engineers suddenly committing suicide. We then see Mr. Elliot, a high school science teacher. In the middle of his lesson, the assistant principal comes in and tells him there is an emergency meeting for all the teachers. We notice that the suicide incidents have been recorded and the videos are spreading among the students. At the meeting, the principal informs the teachers that there has been a terrorist attack and that Central Park and the surrounding areas have been exposed to a toxic gas that makes people behave strangely. In the first stage, they start talking incoherently. In the second stage, people lose their sense of time and place. The third stage is death. Because of this, the city is in a state of emergency and everyone is supposed to stay home until the government finds a solution. Elliot goes home and sees his wife Alma watching the news. She tells Elliot that the government wants to evacuate all of New York City to prevent further casualties. Elliot and Alma pack their bags to go to Philadelphia to stay with their friend Julian. At the train station, they meet Julian and know from the news that autopsies on the victims have revealed that the toxin is a natural compound. They board the train and head to Philadelphia, but the gas reaches there too. A police officer with a gun shoots himself, and a man from a nearby car takes the officer's gun and also commits suicide. Many others starts committing suicide as well. On the train, Alma sits away from Julian and Elliot. We notice that a man keeps calling her, and when she answers, she tells him that he's bothering her and that he was just a one-time fling. At that moment, everyone on the train gets the news that the gas has reached Philadelphia and has started from a park there as well. The train suddenly stops, and the conductor informs the passengers that this is the last stop. They can't proceed to Philadelphia because they have lost contact with everyone there and can't reach anyone at the station, so they won't go any further. Everyone goes to the nearest diner, and Julian's daughter was scared, wanting to see her mom. Elliot tries to comfort her, telling her that everything will be okay. Meanwhile, the incidents in Philadelphia escalate to the point where a man enters a lion's cage to be eaten. A government statement is broadcast announcing that this is not a terrorist attack because the gas incidents are happening simultaneously in multiple locations. The group decides to hitch rides with anyone in the area to escape the affected zones. Elliot looks for a car to ride in until a man and his wife offers them a ride. Julian informs them that he can't come along because his wife isn't responding and he needs to go back to find her. He asks them to take his daughter Jess with them for her safety. Julian says goodbye and leaves with people heading to the city where his wife is. When Julian arrives in the city, he notices that everyone has committed suicide by hanging themselves. The people in the car seal all the ventilation openings to keep the gas out, but Julian notices a vent in the roof and realizes they're doomed. The driver speeds up and everyone in the car dies except Julian, who gets out and cuts his wrist with a piece of broken glass. Meanwhile, Elliot and his group move quickly, but they find the road ahead filled with bodies. They stop the car and decide to turn back, but an army vehicle blocks them. A soldier gets out and informs them that the area is affected by the gas, with many casualties, and moving could put them at risk too. The area gets filled with people and cars, and they decide to stay put until a solution is found. One woman among the crowd was talking on the phone with her daughter, who is in the same city Julian headed to. The daughter says that everyone in the city is dead. Suddenly, the daughter starts mumbling, then commits suicide, and the call disconnects. Elliot realizes that his friend Julian is dead. He and Jess break down for Julian's death. The soldier then tells Elliot that the gas targets densely populated areas and suggests they go to a less crowded place. The group splits into smaller groups, retrieves their bags from the cars, and moves out. Elliot's group leads the way. Suddenly, the soldier's group stops and he begins mumbling, then puts out his gun and shoots himself. The rest of the group members also start shooting themselves with the gun. Elliot and his group realize that the other groups are committing suicide because the gas has reached them. Elliot deduces that the plants are causing this. The plants are releasing a certain gas because they feel threatened by humans using it as a defense mechanism. Looking behind them, they see strong windstorm approaching, so Elliot orders everyone to split into smaller groups and move in different directions. When the wind reaches Elliot's group, nothing happens to them, confirming Elliot's hypothesis that the size of the groups matter. Suddenly, they find a car and Elliot checks it for a map. He hears on the radio that the cause might be the numerous nuclear factories in the northern region. They find a house and Elliot calls his group over to take shelter. Inside, they search for a map, and Elliot decides they should head to a less populated town. As they move on, they see two large groups walking together. Suddenly, one group stops and a man turns on a tractor, lies on the ground, and lets it run over him, confirming Elliot's theory. Elliot and his group continue toward the town, with Jess feeling very tired and hungry. They find a house and knock, but the residents refuse to let them in, fearing contamination. When Elliot's group try to break in, the homeowners shoot at them, forcing Elliot, Alma, and Jess to flee. They continue until they reach the house of an elderly woman named Mrs. Jones, who let them stay for one night. She behaves strangely and is completely unaware of the gas incidents or the outside world. The next morning, Elliot wakes up and can't find Alma or Jess in their room. He searches the house, but they are not there. Now, Mrs. Jones is convinced that Elliot and his group want to kill her, so she kicks them out. She goes into the garden and Elliot follows her to try to talk to her out of her decision. He notices strong winds. Suddenly, Mrs. Jones starts behaving oddly, smashing her head through the window and dies. Elliot quickly runs back inside and locks himself in a room. He hears Alma and Jess through the pipes that allow sound to travel between the buildings. He tells them to close all the windows and doors before the gas reaches them. Elliot talks to Alma, expressing his hope to save them, and they recall their memories together as the winds grow stronger. They decide to leave the shelter's house and meet up to die together, but nothing happens to them, indicating that the phenomenon has ended before they stepped outside. 3 months later, life returns to normal. A scientist explains that the events were caused by plants releasing a substance that reacted with polluted air, causing people to behave strangely and commit suicide. Once the plant stopped releasing the substance, the suicide ceased and life resumed its normal course. 3 months later, life returns to normal. Elliot and Alma have adjusted to their new life with Jess as their adopted daughter. Alma finds out that she's pregnant and surprises Elliot with the news. And that's it. If you like this recap, hit like, share, and subscribe to our channel to keep seeing content like this one. If you have any requests or thoughts, drop them below in the comment section and we will see you at the next one. Peace out!